following. This meme thing's been going on now for about 2 months. What's your first thoughts on it?
My first thought is that memes work. All you got to do is look at Pepe's, and you see Pepe's in all their forms every single day, all over the internet. 6529 is not wrong. Whether or not they hold value, that's the tricky thing, right? It's like, well, if anybody can make them and they're unlimited, where's the value lie? And this is where it gets interesting, right? Does the value lie in that it's kind of a curated collection from 6529, or does the value lie in that it's rare Pepe artists who are doing it, or does the value lie in the best ones, or somewhere in between, or nowhere, right? That I don't know. And that's where it gets really, really interesting, and you'll get these hype bubbles and cycles and Lord knows what else. And that's kind of where we are right now.
We're back here with Adam McBride, Mafiko's in the building, and ETH Horde. Welcome to the show. Hello, Adam. How are you feeling?
Bro, I'm feeling frustrated. I'm hurt. I'm sad. Bro, what are you going to do, man? It's the best laid plans. The world works in mysterious ways. It will smack you in the face, bro. But keep getting up, and you're going to win eventually. One day we will figure it out, my friend. I guarantee you that.
We will figure it out. Mafiko, good morning or afternoon, depending where you are. What's going on?
Yo, good evening, actually. Good evening. Doing good. Busy day. Sorry to hear about the technical difficulties. These things always happen, man. But yeah, no, I'm feeling good today and just been catching up on, yeah, gosh, what's been happening this past week? There's never a dull day in our space.
Yes, sir. ETH Horde, good morning. ETH Horde, my friend, how are you doing? My friend, how are you doing?
Hey, good morning. Doing good. It's been an early morning with the baby waking me up at 5, but it's just all part of it. And don't sweat the technical difficulties. We're all getting used to this, and yeah, I don't think many people are doing these kind of dual streams, but we'll find a way around it, and maybe a couple more test cases that aren't live, and we'll get this straightened out.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are 2 different shows that do this right now, Rug Radio and Nifty Portal. I don't know what kind of black magic they're doing, but man, I'm going to have to figure it out. Dogfather, welcome to the show, brother. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing fine. How's it going?
Doing good. Excited. I'm going to mute you. I think you have a little bit of static in the background. I saw Leo was attempting to, oh, here he is. All right. Leo is now joining the stream as well. Here we are. Leo, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Yo, what's up, guys? This is fun.
Oh my God, audio, it works.
Yeah, we're just going to have to run this for now until we figure it out. I actually have a handful of different topics that I want to cover. First, going on with the memes, man. These memes are getting out of control. There's a few different topics about it that I'd like to cover. First, are these memes here to stay? Is it just a meta that traders are going to just sit and swap liquidity back and forth? Or is this something that has legs and maybe could be the next PFP movement? And if that is the case, then we have a lot farther to go. I'm going to go on here and I'm going to share here in a second. But Adam, from your perspective that you've been following, this meme thing's been going on now for about 2 months. What's your first thoughts on it?
My first thought is that memes work. All you got to do is look at Pepe's, and you see Pepe's in all their forms every single day, all over the internet. And 6529 is not wrong. Whether or not they hold value, that's the tricky thing, right? It's like, well, if anybody can make them and they're unlimited, where's the value lie? And so this is where it gets interesting, right? Does the value lie in that it's kind of a curated collection from 6529, or does the value lie in that it's, rare Pepe artists who are doing it, or does the value lie in the best ones, or somewhere in between, or nowhere, right? That I don't know. And that's where it gets really, really interesting, and you'll get these hype bubbles and cycles and Lord knows what else. And that's kind of where we are right now.
Yeah, we're really starting to see some derivatives. Oh, I think this is the one that dropped today, the one that I'm showing here on the screen of Greedy Morning. 6529, he's been dropping 3 per week, and this is season 2. So I think he's up to almost 50 cards now in this collection, 59. And they're starting to follow some previous models. It's kind of similar to the fake rares where they're getting popular artists to come in. But here, the difference is that there's 4 themes. I believe there's Seize the Memes, Freedom to Transact, We Want You to Meme, and there's a 4th one in there somewhere else. Anybody here on the panel, anyone have any opinions on these? Have you been following them? Have you purchased any? Have you been degenning the meta? See, I guess not.
I mean, I have been following these like from kind of the start, and of course, I totally didn't buy any of them. Obviously, I missed all of the alpha, but yeah, basically, it makes a lot of sense. I more didn't buy them not because I didn't like them. I think you're basically, we've seen large NFT influencers release collections and basically capitalize on that influence that they have and instantly hit $100 million valuations just for a single token with a single image. That's very primitive. And 6529 is one of the larger brands in the space. It totally makes sense why people are investing in him. I definitely do think you're basically kind of placing a bet on him, and then also this notion of like we're gonna do CC0 memes, and we're gonna try and spread the crypto ethos this way, and we're gonna try to create a movement that transcends 6529. That all makes a lot of sense to me. I more didn't collect these just out of like, I don't really collect new stuff that often. I collect the OG versions of these basically. But that's not to say that these aren't really interesting. And I personally I think it's very good for our rare Pepes and our Spells of Genesis cards. This is how things become historically significant. Other people take that idea and innovate on it and make it relevant again in the future. This is why CryptoPunks are worth so much. If there weren't 1,000 10K PFP collections, CryptoPunks would not have the 4 that they have today. They would not be extremely historically relevant $1 billion market cap NFT collection, in my opinion. It's only because that innovation was copied and influenced so many other people that they're relevant. So it's the same thing here. I'm definitely a bit skeptical when I hear people giving maybe kind of the more Bitcoin maxi kind of vibes, where it's like, hey, these guys are, ripping off fake rares. These guys are ripping off rare Pepes. This is bad. To me, this is actually a positive, so I'm actually very happy, and I hope they're extremely successful.
Yeah, I kind of feel that as well. Just for being in crypto for so long, once one community begins to hate something, that's probably when you just want to go max long on it.
Yeah, right. You should get in a little bit, Jake, and describe the rares and the fakes of the rares and the fake of the fake rares. This is where it gets really interesting. And my brain starts melting with like, well, geez, I don't even know what's happening now. Which, I mean, I learned about this like you guys when it was actually, Jake was like, dude, you should go grab a couple of these. And I said to Jake, nah, I can't, man, because I know the way I work. Even if they jump like that, I mean, I knew about the 6529 when they launched, but even if they jump, I'll never sell. And so I'll see the whole hype cycle and then ride it back down to 0. So there's no point in me like even getting involved in this. More just, watch it from the sideline and enjoy it. But yeah, Jake, jump into the rares and the fakes of the rares, and then the fakes of the fakes.
This is like where it gets my mind going. So I first saw Sergito, who's in a bunch of DAOs. He's a pretty popular person in the NFT space. He launched Seize the Meebs. He's had this Meebit as his profile picture for quite some time. And here, let me go over to it. And he launched this one first, the Nakamito. What is this? Nakamabito. Nakamibito. And these were selling for like 5 ETH at one point.
Bro.
And I thought this was just like, okay, I was like, okay, a derivative, it's a knockoff. Like this really isn't going to go anywhere. And it gained a lot of attraction. I mean, I really should have guessed it because of his because of his following. He has like 40,000 followers or something. And then all of a sudden, and I'm going to take you through, this is kind of where I've been following along, is the it's absolutely crazy. Where's this at? The fake or the fake memes. So I posted this. This was fake the memes of production. So Skrilla and 4 other fake rare artists, they pretty much organically started creating these fake versions, which is very similar to how the fake rares thing started. So fake rares, for those who don't know, is kind of the companion or the successor to Rare Pepe's. And how it started was Skrilla, who founded Fake Rares. He's an OG Rare Pepe artist. He created DJ Pepe and a handful of other ones. He posted a Pepe or a fake Pepe inside of the Rare Pepe's Telegram, and he got insta-banned. So he took that card and he tokenized it and airdropped it to like a bunch of people and started calling them fake rares. And then a bunch of other people started doing it. And it was very similar organic creation to how Rare Pepe started, where people were just posting Pepes inside of the Telegram, calling them rare, then start putting them on the blockchain and so on and so forth. And so once this started happening, the first person to do this was JPEG Killa. He did the memes of production. And this original image is from Grant Yuan, who's a super popular, I think it's like called Neo-Impressionism. He created this fake card, and he started following the open edition meta, which is happening right now, where people are using Manifold. It's all happening through Manifold. Started issuing these open editions for about 1 hour. And basically, he did this January 11th. And then about 8 days later, Carsonated did one where he created a fake of the Freedom Nakamoto card, which is now at 40 ETH, but he did it with Vitalik, and it says freedom to transact with the OFAC compliant blocks, which is quite funny, honestly, when you think about it. Yeah. And then 2 days later, Skrilla created one. And this one's actually even hilarious. So basically, if you can see this image, you can't really see, but this is Dan Sickles, who created some documentary, which Adam is a part of. Dan started unloading his meme bags. Like literally every single one of these is Dan Sickles selling all of his memes.
Oh, that's hilarious. I didn't realize there was that part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess him and Skrilla are like friends or something. And then at the very top, Dan buys the Freedom of Keck card, which is the Series 0 fake rares card. So that's why it says feels fake man, sees the memes of production. It's Dan selling all his memes and buying a fake rare. the first fake rare card. So awesome. it just screams exactly how Rare Pepe started. And so then you had 2 other artists, Pepe Nardo and Viva La Vandal, created one. And basically they said that you have to collect all 5 of these cards to right here, let me go to the profile. You basically have to collect all 5 of these cards, and you're going to get a master pass. And the master pass allows you a free mint, or it allows you a guaranteed allow list spot for every upcoming fake meme drop, which is exactly how 6529's Gradient is. 6529's Gradient, I believe, is selling for about 69 ETH at this point in time, which is basically just you get an allow list on every, here it is, yeah. You get an allow list on every single one. But what they did now is they basically combined the fake rares mechanic, where in fake rares, if you want to create a fake rare, you have to buy a fake ASF card, and then you have to burn it. And so here they said, for every single one of those 5 cards that you own, you'll be able to mint a meme ASF. And then if you burn 3 meme ASFs, you could mint your own fake meme in the collection. So they're combining 6529's the memes collection with kind of the fake rare mechanics with all of the fake rare artists. And basically this set right here that you see on the screen ran from 0.35 ETH to 2.5 ETH. It got up to 4. I believe it's back down to 2.5. You had Dingling get in, who's literally one of the largest whales in NFT space. As you could see, he owns 100 Bored Apes, he owns 100 Cool Cats, all these punks and all this different stuff. Here's the the information for it. So the snapshot is happening on January 31st. So if you hold all 5, then you can get a master pass. This is actually now, they created a Telegram. They even integrated it now into the Fake Rare's website. So you have the fake memes. And you can see here, this is a video of all of the different season 0. So there's a bunch of like miscellaneous cards that are minting right now. Most of them will probably go to 0, but some of them will make it into series 0, which will be on the website. And these are some of the ones that have been purchasing, which are pretty cool looking. Like this one is absolutely fantastic. There's going to be a vote to see which one of these goes into series 0. And then beginning series 1, they're all going to be minted on the same contract so that they can all be in one place. So right now there's kind of a scavenge of like a small meta of which one of these are going to make it into series 0, because those are the ones that'll probably end up having some value. I know
they're gonna remint these.
No, so those series 0 ones are going to just basically be on the website as the series 0 as an individual assortment, and then beginning series 1. Once you get the mint pass and the meme ASF cards going, then they're all going to be on just one collection page. So then they'll actually have something very similar to like the Rare Pepe artists and the Fake Rare, whatever they're called. But you need 3 meme ASFs to mint one. And I think he said there's a max of about 3,000 total that'll happen. Like, so you'll have 3,000. So again, it's just another very similar thing, but it's on Ethereum. And Skrilla, he put a tweet out saying, like, this all is going to lead back to Rare Pepes and Fake Rares. Of course, it sparked some controversy within the Fake Rare and Rare Pepe community. But you even saw Joe Looney now is getting in on the action. He did his own Series 0 card. So you have some of the OG ones coming in. Some of the Fake Rare people feel betrayed because they're saying, like, this is just a giant cash grab. and then some of the Fake Rare community and some of the other people are saying, hey, look, this is on ETH. Like, this is making it very accessible. The Emblem Vault Curated Collections is not here yet, and we have to follow this kind of meta to then create and make it openly accessible for anybody to go in and create something. And I was talking with a handful of people who reached out to me asking me kind of about this. And my thought is, like, at the time I bought the full collection as like 0.8 ETH or something like that. I said, if this meme trend is something like PFPs to where every single community is going to have their own tokenized meme collection, like this is where I want to be. This will be number 2 of everything. This will be the Azukis, right? Azukis are number 2, Bored Apes are number 1. This would be like the Azukis of like this like meme classification. If let's say OpenSea adds a meme category to their page, like that's it. Like that's where it's going. So that's kind of like where my thoughts are. And I'm just playing it because I think some of the art's cool. I really like the culture, and I do think it has some amplification effects for Rare Pepes and Fake Rares once the accessibility is laid out. But now that I've laid it out to you, what are your thoughts? Do you still think it's a scam, or do you think there's some legs here?
Of course it's a scam. Yeah, I mean, when you can make infinite number of things, how do those things hold value? And obviously you get, Leo's probably better at this than I am, but you start thinking about, if the historic Rare Pepe, artists are involved, that's probably going to be more valuable than something done by Adam, right? Or, it's 6529, and he was one of the first to really truly understand this and start his own. Does that hold the value? My gut says we may have a massive correction, but it may be a year from now after, like you said, everybody's doing memes. Who knows? I'd love to hear Ethord's viewpoint on this and what he thinks.
Yeah. I am a self-proclaimed cynic, and I think it's probably, it hurts sometimes, but it helps a lot to kind of be grounded in realism. And, we look at everything within cryptocurrency is a giant wave, right? It goes up, it becomes in the narrative, everyone jumps on, you see a bunch of imitations of it, you see the OGs get pissed at the new ones that are becoming so successful so quickly. And you get these wars, and it's all about attention and eyeballs. And the more attention and eyeballs you get, the more the price goes up. The more price goes up, the more euphoric everyone gets. I felt it in 2021. I want to say kind of early fall with art blocks, and I just remember at that time, right, because I had some art blocks. I was a fan of it, but I need to stop trusting my gut, because whenever I think something looks stupid, I'm totally wrong, right?
That is your gut. That's your gut telling you to go all in, bro. When you see something and you're like, oh, that's so dumb, you need to immediately go buy all you can.
I'm gonna like tattoo that to my arm. But yeah, because I remember seeing squigglies when you could mint them, as many as you wanted, and I was like, these things look silly. But I really liked some of the other art blocks, and those were the ones I was grabbing, and maybe those didn't have the same kind of crazy value, but then we got into that euphoric phase, and I told my buddy, I said, I'm going to start dumping these. I mean, I just can't imagine. They're just going to keep making more and more. I mean, the number of total art blocks is just going to keep going up. And look at these gas wars, and you can get involved in a gas war, set your GUI to 1,000, mint one, and then flip it instantly and make a profit. And that's not going to last. And so, yeah, I mean, I was at least somewhat right there. Here, it's the same sort of thing. You will see one's hold value. Squigglies are still ridiculously high, and I regret. There was a time where I wanted one, and I could have, swapped out a Hearst currency for one to one. I didn't. Now I'm holding, it's what, 1/5 the price or something. But it's fun. I like my currency. I think the hindsight 50-50 of all of a sudden someone tells you that this is the price, and then you want it because the price is that high. And that's where we're at right now. I can't not see there being a correction when you see everyone jumping in and imitating imitations. However, yeah, I mean, that doesn't mean they're going to go to zero. And there's definitely FOMO. I never had the opportunity to get the original, but with the fakes I did, and I saw, Skrilla say, hey, mint this, and I clicked on it, and I got to the Manifold site, but I'm on my phone, and it's always hard on the phone. And I just was like, oh, I'll do it later. And of course, then time ran out, and then I see, the price goes up. And now you're kind of, I don't know if anyone else has done this, but you get in that mode where you had the opportunity and you just kind of fumbled it. And it was right there. And then you just kind of want to ignore it, and like out of sight, out of mind. And it's hard, right? Sometimes like before bed, I was checking the prices on like, oh man. But it's all interesting, and it's fun to pay attention to. And I think they're going to hold value. It's just right now we're in that.
Which one, right? Which one's going to be the one to hold the value, right?
That's kind of why I've just like been doing a spray on the ones that I like. I did also just pull up while Ethord was talking that Cosmo de Medici is also launching his own memes collection on February 1st. So one of also the largest influencers in the space is getting sued. 6529 was also tweeting with him, and they were doing collab tweets about it. I think the ultimate meme play out and also sign of validation for fake memes is if 6529 creates his own meme in the fake meme collection. He just goes and buys 3 meme ASFs when they're there and creates it. Yep. And that would just send shockwaves through, right? Because all you need in the NFT space is just like literally one little mimetic thing to happen before it just completely sends everything into orbit.
It makes me think of if you remember in 2021, people were selling their memes. You remember, the girl in front of the burning house, I don't know, Date Me Girl or whatever she was. I don't know. There were a bunch of them that sold, right? Like $500,000 for these ones. And
yeah,
this is kind of like,
tweets too.
Yeah, literally. I mean, but this is like, for me, this is almost like a evolution of that. Where if you are one of those, randomly, you create a meme or something, this is an area to capitalize on. And, it's, they're actually just kind of reworking existing memes. But these derivative of memes, NFTs, man, it's magical. It's magical.
Yeah, absolute meme derivatives. I mean, the whole I mean, the whole like open edition meta, collabing with like memes, it's all going through Manifold. And from what I'm seeing now, Manifold just added notifications to people's, to creators. They're just going to continually add utility on top of it. To me, I don't think this is stopping. I see it as just a larger trend that eventually every community is just going to have their own meme collection. I saw Pudgy Penguins also, or no, Sappy Seals, excuse me. Sappy Seals also launched their own community meme collection. I think it's called the Meme Generator, Meme Factory, or something like that on their own website. So this is, it's just somebody, the NFT community in whole needs a narrative to jump on for it to kind of really get everything going. And from what I've seen, it was kind of before I got into NFTs, but they said the whole NFT market began booming through Nifty Gateway in 2020 through open editions. So, Ethor, if you want to put yourself on mute real quick, I think your baby's crying a little bit. Yeah. The whole NFT boom began through open editions through Nifty Gateway. So this could just be a start, could be a smaller thing. Mafika, what's your take on this?
Oh, this is so interesting. It's so interesting. You know, I think, well, I preface all my comments in saying that I'm not a trader. So I've always looked at things from the collector's perspective. So when I'm looking at these new collections, 6529, and same thing, I have this list on Twitter where I kind of have, I think it's like 15, 20 people who every single tweet of theirs, I always retweet or like. And 6529 was on there, Jack Butcher as well. And both of them saw tweets around their open editions or their projects, and for some reason slept on both of them. So lost out on both those opportunities. But in saying that, I think this is the most bullish thing for Rare Pepes that I've ever seen. The fact that we have now arguably 6529, Medici, the largest influencers in the space, all creating basically new similar projects to the original Rare Pepes collection is extremely bullish. To Adam's point, in terms of which ones maintain value, I think is such a critical question. And I tend to think in terms of which ones will maintain value will be the ones that speak to a more significant narrative that's important to crypto people, but also that Web2 people can get behind. So you notice already we're seeing it with 6529, freedom to transact. Those memes particularly seem to really hit a chord with people. And I think beyond us here in the web, in crypto and NFTs, I think that is a narrative that as well a lot of people who aren't in Web3 can get behind. So I can see potentially those maintaining strong value. If we see every collection now having a meme, sort of memes, I mean, I think we could be on the cusp of another bull run. I do think the fact that memes have such power to communicate to people, to resonate with people, it's people underrate them, like they underestimate them, but it's a really important channel to communicate ideas or to just make people laugh as well. It's really important. But ultimately, where I'm at right now is like, I know with NFT land, attention is such a critical thing. The attention is all eyes on 6529 right now on fake memes, etc. I mean, when you have Elon, so Space Daddy, right? You've got Space Daddy, the floor for Space Daddy right now is 0.37. That recently got burned. So there's only 299 Space Daddies now. So when you have the first Elon Musk NFT, 299 tokenized in 2016 at 0.37 ETH, but then you have all these other derivatives at basically at a much higher floor price. I personally am hard pressed to invest in newer projects than going back and sort of seeing where people aren't really focusing on at the moment. So that's my kind of perspective right now. But I do think this is a really important trend that we're seeing, and it's going to bring a lot more attention to NFTs. People are going to think it's stupid and it's a scam, et cetera. But I do think people are going to go, you know what, this is funny as fuck. These are funny. We'll see.
Yeah, the interesting component to this is that for all the derivative projects, the most valuable card is the one that is symbolic to Rare Pepe, to the Nakamoto card, the Freedom. Nakamoto's 3080, the freedom to transact question mark and fake memes is over 2 ETH. It might have fallen a little bit. So maybe Cosmo Medici also launches the same. And so it just shows that the most valuable card is the rare Pepe. But then it leads to the question, if 6529's following is so large and he has such a mimetic value within the community, can the Nakamoto Freedom card actually flip the Nakamoto card, the rare Pepe card? Leonidas, what do you think this can happen? I know you proposed this question on Twitter, I think a week or two ago, before fake memes even became a thing, or before Seize the Memes had launched.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it would certainly be a weird feeling to have this new card, right? Flip. They're both the same supply. That said, you know, guys, my take on this is that this thing does look to have legs. It's got network effects. It's got a lot of people just basically very passionate about it very quickly. You can go look at the Dune analytics. It's all just up and to the right. You've got all these new collections dropping from other big names in the space that at least gives it runway for like 1 month more, right? And then the real question is, are we talking a PFP level product market fit, or is this going to fizzle the way Loot and many of these other kind of trends that happen fizzled, right? And I don't know the answer to that. My guess is that it has legs to kind of keep going. Everything old is new again, right? Like rare Pepes were super successful. We're just doing rare Pepes 2.0 is more or less what's happening here. We know it worked in 2016. We know that catalyzed the crypto art movement. When these artists band together in a group, there's a safety there. There's a discoverability, a visibility. There's a safety for collectors storing value. You're not worried that this is going to be some random token that gets forgotten about. You've got the safety there. So that makes it a strong store of value. It's a good model to store value on, in my opinion, relative to having like 100 different random kind of collections for these artists. So yeah, I think the big question for me is, and I think this is relevant to this conversation, is, you know, how much is the fact that this is basically rare Pepes on Ethereum directly on OpenSea playing a role in the success, right? If they had done this on Counterparty, how popular would it be? And it just begs the question, what happens when rare Pepes get a similar experience? What happens when Spells of Genesis gets a similar user experience on OpenSea? That's kind of the $1 million question, no pun intended.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, man. I mean, like, look, if this was happening on Counterparty, this wouldn't be happening, right? It's happening because it's happening on Ethereum, right? It's just, that's where the eyeballs are. Yeah, it's so interesting, these layers of, you know, remixing what's already been done, right? And just not even remixing, just straight up just doing what's already been done, just at a different time and with the right tools, like in the right space, with the right network effects, and what can happen. And it's interesting, you just start thinking about, well, what other stuff was done a few years ago and kind of failed, and how can that be remixed and re-engineered and you know, I don't know what we were talking about, Jake. We were talking about Adam Levine and Tokenly, right? Is there a space for that again, right? Is there a space for network effects to really work for Tokenly this time? I mean, it kind of worked in 2016. Could it really work now if we did something like that? So I don't know. There's all this sort of interesting stuff happening, and I'd love to see it. Yeah,
me too. Once we get the curated collections launched, it'll be an interesting timeline to see fake memes competing with 6529's memes, competing with rare Pepe, competing with fake rare, all on Ethereum. So I think that's actually will be like the kind of either the absolute top, or it'll be the absolute absolute breakout moment for rare Pepes and for everything else. Exciting.
I'm just wondering, when's the next meme PFP coming out, right? It's like MFers are like the one, but it's like, man, this thing is ripe, dude. This is the time, right?
Yeah,
so
but speaking about Counterparty and Doge Party and everything, Dogfather is going to be joining us as kind of the Counterparty specialist or expert who's sitting here on stage with us, so we can move past the memes and move into one of our favorite chains of history of Counterparty. Dogfather, is there anything going on over there that's been notable, or anything that you would just like to mention as your inaugural episode on the Vault?
Yeah, man, I would love to do that. So First, I think the timing to bring the rare peppies in one collection on OpenSea, on Ethereum, would be perfect. I think right now the stage is set. You just have to be there. So that was the first thing. I mean, fully in line with Leo and Mafiko. And then the second thing is I was digging a bit into the counterparty database and looking into, writing this thread about the rare peppies. And the one thing that's really eye-opening is just the small number of wallets holding rare peppies. You and me and everyone in the small bubble is thinking everyone is holding rare peppies, but that's not true, right? So they're like 30K wallets holding rare peppies, which sounds like okay, that's quite something. But 22K wallets is basically Emblem Vault. So it's just basically one rare peppy in one wallet. So you guys are taking care of a lot of the rare peppies and a lot of the market. So how much is that leaving on the native market, on counterparty? And if I filter out the super high supply cards, if I say the wallet should hold more than one peppy, because I mean, who is a collector holding one peppy? So we are down to, let's say, 4K of wallets. 4K, that's not much. And then bear in the back of your mind, typically every kind of seasoned counterparty artist or collector has multiple wallets just because of one very important reason. If you want to sell your rare peppy, typically you do that via a dispenser. For a dispenser, which is something like an automated sales bot, you have to set up a new wallet just in order to not trigger it with some other payments. Because if you send some BTC to an address with an open dispenser, it would send your card to the sending address. So then maybe your rare peppy is gone and is sitting on Coinbase, and it's gone, right? So if you want to say that maybe there are 1,000 native rare peppy collectors on Counterparty, that is like tiny. So you have to go to Ethereum to go to these 30 million or so active users who want to buy the original, the underlying meme 6529 and the others are referring to. And, this could be a real explosion if done right.
Yeah, that's actually that's almost.
I'm telling you guys, there are 500 of us, if that. Like it might be just like 150 of us here. It's like seriously, it's an amazing point about the number of holders on Counterparty is incredible. Like just to think about how few people want to take those next steps to get a bit of Bitcoin, to learn how to use Counterparty. I mean, it's easy to use. You can learn in 20 minutes. But still, how few are willing to do that? It's incredible, and it just shows how incredibly early we are. Really,
it's everything really happens on Ethereum. We try to we try to dismiss it and say rare pepes are the OGs, right? We get in this echo bubble. It's almost very similar to the timestamp absolutist people who just kind of just yell like that their project's the oldest without doing anything to kind of attract people to come on. It's the same thing that's going through rare pepes, even though it is one of the holy grails of historical NFTs. There has to be an integration into the new ecosystem. Ethereum is by far the de facto smart contract platform that gives accessibility and utility to pretty much anything that we want to do. And with Emblem Vault, it's in our hands to kind of bring it there. It's a lot of responsibility, but I'm excited to do it and see what happens once that day comes. But 4,000, that blew me away. I thought it was actually much higher than that. Ethor, do you have something to say?
Yeah, Dogfather. Those are some crazy numbers. An analogy that I'm kind of going straight to is it's almost like X-Chain or Counterparty is. It's like a farmer's market in bumfuck nowhere in Kansas, and you could have the best freaking pluots in the world, but the market that you're selling to there, you're just not going to have enough people to buy them up. And then that's what's so great about Emblem. It's like transferring all those amazing fruits to some, super bougie, like Santa Monica farmers market, and they're going to sell like hotcakes. You just have the people there to buy them up, and the wealth as well to say, all right, it's $8 a pound for these things, way more than the supermarket, but it's worth it. And that's crazy to think how low those numbers are on wallets right now. Though.
Well, a lot of room to grow, and very exciting times for Emblem. So we'll give a little bit of an update of where we are. We're kind of towards the end of getting this rare Pepe's. The bridge, I don't know, it's a bridge migration portal, is like what's actively being built right now, and I think that's kind of the final piece to it. Once that happens, we have bulk listing or bulk minting. So if these OG rare Pepe artists that hold, I don't know, 30% of the supply, sometimes upwards of 80% of the supply, they can literally just mint it all in one transaction. Again, the whole point of all of these conversations is that we're trying to make it as frictionless as possible to get these in people's hands. So that's what's kind of around the corner. And then once we get that going, it's going to be Spells of Genesis, and then the rest of the Pepe's, fake rares, fake commons, dank rares, because at the end of the day, we're our business, and we got to keep the lights on. Speaking to it, because I mean, today we saw 250 ETH sales. We saw the Satoshi card and the FD card, both of those going through the X2Y2 portal. So, it's great to facilitate the transactions, but Emblem Vault saw none of that, right? So the profitability of the company is taken probably a 50% hit since this X2Y2 private portals has come on, and we do want to respect, people having the ability to access things differently, however they want. But it's definitely something that we're trying to work towards, and I think once we launch these curated collections, it's going to be on OpenSea and only on OpenSea, and so hopefully that'll help us build this historical NFT marketplace and some of the other things that we want to do. But alongside of just sales, we had mostly just rare Pepe's and fake rares. You see at the bottom, the package claim was 3 ETH, Com Pepe was 3 ETH, and then the old school Pepe Reaper for 2.04 ETH. And vintage Pep. Those are 2 rare Pepe's. The 2 previous that sold higher were fake rares, and then the 2 before that were Spells of Genesis. So those are kind of just the 3 most popular collections on Counterparty and Emblem Vault right now. Adam, do you have anything to add? It looked like you're going to say something.
I'm just excited to see, when this, the way it works, and the way that crypto Twitter and NFT Twitter work. Once something starts moving, it just becomes a tidal wave. And I'm just excited for that to happen really for the first time for Pepe's, because it's never really happened. I mean, Pepe's have had a little bit of shine, but not really that easy access where the average, guy like myself with no knowledge of anything can come in and just hit the buy button. That's going to be exciting when that finally pops off. And I'm pretty confident that's going to happen.
Put my Naka in the ring with the Freedom Naka, Adam. First round knockout.
Oh boy, I'm excited for that, dude. The collectors, just the collector landscape within NFT land is quite small. I know there's a lot of flippers that are getting into the memes and some of these other things, but to bring the collectors from Counterparty and Namecoin onto Ethereum, we can hopefully kind of revolutionize that. That was kind of the whole point of this show, was to show that, there are collectors, to create a nice landscape for people who are kind of similar to the Bitcoin investment strategy, where you just want to buy and hold. You don't want to partake in the rat race of whatever is the hot topic of the day, or whenever you scan through the Twitter spaces that are happening, they're all cycling through the same things. They're either talking about flipping, they're talking about the floor price of an asset, or they're talking about whatever the influencer is doing to scam somebody, right? It's just like, it's the same 3 things on repeat. So we're trying to just create a more comfortable space and kind of take the opposite approach. If there's something I've learned in crypto, is that as long as a community survives, it'll never stay nascent forever. It'll definitely find its shining light in that kind of moment at some point in time. It just depends how long they want to stick out for it. But we brought Ethord here. We're also going to, this is actually a pretty terrible transition to it, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it anyways. We're going to have a new segment with Ethord. I'm going to let him just lay out what he plans to do moving on forward. And it's going to be unique because we do want to open up this to more than just historical NFTs.
Yeah, I actually thought it was a pretty good transition, and I was wondering in my head, I was wondering in my head, like, are you transitioning to collectors and physical collections and stuff like that? Because you were getting there, and so this is a segment I'm gonna be leading called Hoarder of the Week. It explores the world of physical collecting. Each week, we're going to focus on a specific product, digging into its history and exploring what characteristics set certain items apart from the general collection. And kind of going back a little bit too to what I was saying with my my gut feelings, I think that it's really good to study just kind of collections in general and what people look for and what certain things stand out, whether it's stamps or coins or some of these really weird things we're going to be talking about over the weeks, to find out, okay, how can we kind of relate some of that stuff into NFTs to pick apart, okay, what's actually going to be valuable, right? And this week is going to be focused on Pez.
Let's go, Pez. Pez, for anybody who doesn't know, those are little dispensers with the little head on top, right? Y'all ate them growing up. I ate them I would just put the candy straight in my mouth, screw the dispenser.
Yeah, just open them out of the paper and just pop them. But yeah, as a candy, they're not that good. It kind of leaves some to be desired. They're almost like just little colored sugar pellets. However, it's all about the dispensers that they are presented in that have created this collectible market. And this wouldn't have been my first choice of what I do for Hoarder of the Week, but Netflix released a documentary this week called The Pez Outlaw. Highly recommend people to check it out. It's pretty good. It's entertaining. Basically, this dude went to some tiny little factory in Eastern Europe and swooped a bunch of like small production and prototype Pez dispensers, and then would fly back to the US and found a market for them where these people would pay ridiculous amounts of money. And if you think about it, right, that's not too different than what some people do in the NFT space. And think about us as people that are digging up old projects and minting them for free or whatever, and then able to sell them to the right people. So yeah, it's about, he found this alpha. I guess he would pay this dude under the table to grab a bunch of these. And then there's one specific story in the doc that I found funny that we can relate to, which is the Bubble Boy dispenser. So it's this hideous pig-faced looking dude with giant cheeks. and I guess it was a prototype, and there was just 6 of them in a safe. And the dude in Eastern Europe says, "Hey, look, these never saw the light of day." And he's like, "Wow, those are cool looking. Can I have one?" He's like, "Yeah, sure, have one." So he gives him this free Bubble Boy one, and then he takes it to all these road Pez shows or whatever in the United States, and is able to sell it for a good chunk of change. And then that kind of propelled him to being this quote Pez outlaw guy that would have all these rares. And and so the president finds out and hears about this because this guy's starting to make little waves in the small Pez community, and he hears about this guy who's doing this, doesn't know how he's getting it, but he knows he's getting stuff. He says, "I'm gonna screw this guy over." So at least for this Bubble Boy Pez dispenser, he decides, screw it, we're gonna mass produce him, right? So he just inflates the supply up wazoo, and then it became worthless, right? So that's always funny. It's something that. Go ahead.
I was gonna say,
it's something we always fear too, right? With revival projects, I remember even with the Mooncats, people were worried that they were going to make a bunch more, and I joked about it. I think on a Spaces, and and people did not take it kindly as a joke when I said, yeah, they'll make like 10 million more of these Mooncats, so everyone have one. And so, yeah, I mean, we see that a lot. You know, it's all about having the right supply, not too little, but not too much.
Yep.
What are you gonna say, Jake?
Yeah, we see how important it is to lock the supply, like on Counterparty and stuff like that, from a collectible standpoint. That we know the maximum amount is obviously super important, and it actually presses this idea. And I'd love your guys' opinion on this about like how much is too much, right? And we see it maybe a little bit with Mooncats with 25,000 supply. Is that too much? You know, and therefore we have to break that 25,000 into smaller pieces, you know, either by year or rarity, to be able to understand value. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, I think if we just take it back to the Pez, I didn't get to watch the documentary, but you know, I used to be a big Pokemon card collector. And when I was collecting Pokemon, it was only when the 151 existed. And when they were making with the 151, they had the regular version, the American version, they had the Japanese version, and then they had kind of these holograms, but they were all of the 151. But once they expanded to the next 151, that's when I got out. It was just like, to me, I just really wasn't interested in it anymore. The supply for me was too demanding, but they could make a million derivatives of the first 151. I was focused. I wanted to collect those. I was very familiar with it. It wasn't until they expanded it is to where I kind of really lost interest in it, because maybe you've just like either overinvested so much to where it's not something that you want to partake in. You've lost, it's kind of loses its nostalgic value, or maybe just some of the other criteria that people tend to use. But it's either you're losing the amount of money that it's going to take. You think about it. Oh, another 151, right? I've invested $5,000 into these Pokemon cards. Now I'm gonna have to invest another 5,000. It's just like such a mental hurdle where you're like, it's not something that I want to partake in.
Ethord, actually, I had a question for you about like how collectors, like in the Pez community, if it wasn't even produced, how would they even know that it was a real, quote unquote, real Pez dispenser, right? How did they know it was like actually produced by the company and not just some fake knockoff?
Yeah, well, there are serial numbers on the side. I guess, you know, that's part of why blockchain is so revolutionary is it's immutable and it's nearly impossible to, you know, to forge. But that's kind of, I guess, you know, there's the trust or there's articles, but there's the serial numbers on the sides of them, and more details too, with knowing what some of these other ones were created and Pez admits to them, and then the rarities of them. But so yeah, I'll dig a little deeper with this. I've broken everything down into kind of the origin, which is just a quick history of the product, and then what makes them certain ones valuable, and then some top sale highlights. So the origins of Pez through Pez dispensers, they weren't available in the U.S. until after World War II, but they're actually created by this Austrian inventor named Edward Haas III in 1927. But the first release wasn't for another 19 years. So in 1948, Pez released their first dispenser. The V1s, if you will, looked a lot like a cigarette lighter. And I do have an image of it, and I have another image. I guess we can. I should have sent those to you ahead of time, Jake. But yeah, so they're metal, and they looked like a cigarette lighter because it was actually initially intended to be an aid for people to stop smoking. So that's kind of a cool history, but it didn't have those heads that you'd expect from the get-go. And what makes certain ones valuable, we'll probably see a lot of repetition of this throughout different ones. You can obviously assume boxed versus unboxed, right? They want things to be in the original packaging. And then popular characters versus unknowns, right? So Pez has a ton of different heads and a lot of Disney ones and popular characters, and then some like random ones that they created themselves, or the ugly bubble boy or whatever. So the market generally runs on nostalgia, and they're going to be more willing to buy characters that, you know, they remember and know. And then vintage versus modern. This is, you know, the core of what we're all believe in our thesis, which is, you know, you could check the patent number on the side of the dispenser to see what numbers are listed. Dispensers with patent numbers of, I don't know, 2.6 million to 3.4 million are a bit more valuable because they were made between 1952 to 1974, which is considered like the peak hit era of Pez. So, and then the last one is this is like a cool one to know. I know Magic Gathering has some of these where you can just know right off the bat when you look at it. So with Pez, it's does it have feet or not, right? So when we think of our classic Pez, if you think of the base, it's got these like little South Park like feet, and yeah. So the first ones that came out, they didn't have feet. They were just square bottoms, and they probably tipped over a lot easier. And then by the mid 1980s, they decided, hey, we should probably put some feet on these things, and so that helps to determine their age as well.
What's some ideas around like how many, like obviously some probably have millions made of whatever, a Mickey Mouse or something like that. Do they have to be like ultra rare to hold real value? Does it have to be one of these where there were only 6 of them made, or are ones with thousands still relatively valuable? Did you learn about that?
From all the research I did, it sounded like you could, yeah, these things sold, especially back in the day with inflation, for less than $1. And some of the ones that were mass produced but were very famous heads can sell for, you know, 10, 20, $50. But all the ones that have sold for 1,000 plus have very limited amounts. Some are one of ones, and some are very limited in just being you know, prototypes that never got mass produced. But once they got mass produced, yeah, the value goes way down. And then I guess another part of that too is that when you're, you know, when you're looking at them, the original ones, I don't know how many they made, but I'm sure they made a decent amount. And those do sell for a lot. So if it's the first 1940s ones, that it would be more than 10. But the price, and we're going to see this a lot. We are taken aback with how much money people spend in US dollars on NFTs, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't align with other collections, right? So just already get in your head when something sells for a lot for a Pez or something else like that, it's going to be like $1,000 to $5,000, right? I think the most expensive Pez that ever sold for something like 30 grand, and it was a one of a kind that was owned by JFK. I don't know.
Wow.
So yeah, and I think that's why I always thought back in late 2020 how much CryptoPunks were going for at the time, and I was like, oh, I'll wait till they go back down, and they never did, and that's what we're starting to see. It's just a whole different world with what things are valued in NFTs, but it's still interesting to see. So some top sales with these, there's the Disney soft heads. So this was interesting. You know how when you think of a Pez dispenser, it's like a hard plastic top, but for a little bit in the 70s, Pez thought, hey, we can make these that are a little more gummy, a little softer. And they had this deal with Disney. So they created a Mickey and a Dumbo and a couple others, and they were supposed to be easy to manufacture and cheaper to produce. But the oil crisis of 1979 made them prohibitively expensive to make. And they were quickly discontinued. So if you have one of these, they generally sell for around $1K. And that is kind of like, yeah, when we're looking at certain NFTs, it could be kind of similar, where if they were going to make a lot and they burned a bunch, it's kind of similar, I guess, in that vein. The original that we talked about, 1940s metal lighter, those sell for around 3,000. And then the Witch Bee. This is kind of like the perfect example of historics. So in 1957, the Halloween Witch became the first character head Pez ever released. There were two versions of these witches, which were dubbed A and B. Version B was harder to find, so it obviously is more expensive than A, but here you go, right? This is what we know of. This was when they shifted to creating Pez dispensers that look more like what we're used to seeing today. So this was the first one, and then there's two versions, and version B is more rare. So these are highly sought after. The last one sold on eBay for $1,000, but it was in pretty bad condition. I'm sure if someone has it in super mint condition, it would sell at an auction house for probably 10 times that. And then I have one last one, which is my favorite because it's funny. It's called Make a Face. It was made in the 1970s, and it had all of these kind of little parts to it, very Mr. Potato Head style. And so you could make the face however you wanted and allowed kids to rearrange the pieces. Unfortunately, the model didn't last long due to kids swallowing the remaining. I don't think they thought that one through.
That's awesome.
Oh boy.
So
Ethan, while you were talking,
you can find. Go ahead.
Good. Sorry. Go ahead.
The last piece of this, and then I'm done. Which is so these regularly sell for around upwards of $4,000 if you have them with all the pieces.
There is a component that you said about value that existed within Pez and real world collectibles that doesn't in NFTs, and I don't know if it ever will. I thought it would. It hasn't yet, and it's the idea of who possessed it before you. You'd mentioned that the high selling one is because JFK owned it, that people found it valuable. It's very similar to, and I talked about this in our first episode, that I was watching the El Chapo documentary, and after he was arrested, they went and auctioned off all of his pieces, and all of the richest individuals in Mexico went down there to go purchase all of his stuff, and they wanted to purchase it because he owned it. There was like something there that they found of value because one of the most notorious killers and drug dealers in the world possessed it, and that just has not really translated into NFTs, really, right? People even make fun of Steve Aoki selling his NFT to them because, right, of course, he's the top buyer and all these different things. But even people like Gary Vee selling NFTs, it does not seem like there's more value transacted through that because of a prestigious individual owning an NFT.
Yeah, I think it hasn't happened yet. I mean, this was something I figured would happen, a year ago, or almost right when I, really got into NFTs. Like the history of the NFT itself and who held it before. I think it's only a matter of time before people get excited about that. I think that's just a really cool part. It's public. Everybody can see it. So it has that flex appeal of it. I just think it's a matter of time till people get really psyched about that. That Gary V owned one of mine, or whatever, whoever, that Michael Jordan owned one of mine, or just that history of it. I mean, we see it in the art community with who owned the Basquiat before I did. It's a big part of it. And I think it's only a matter of time till somebody comes up with an explorer or some way to see this or feel it in a kind of granular level where collectors get excited about it.
Yeah.
It's a great point. The only thing I can think of right now that kind of fits is the founder cats, right? With CryptoKitties. But
yeah, probably because
those were the early ones too. So.
Yeah, they were early, maybe because it's such a small supply. It does lead to an interesting point, and something that I've been considering a lot through a handful of things that have happened pretty recently. And it's kind of this idea of this flow of provenance, or the transition of provenance, where we've seen this historically happen, where some of the older projects like on Bitcoin and some of the early people, Scribe went down, so they basically tried to remint it, or even with Kevin McCoy, tried to remint it on another chain. and thought that just because that token has existed before, the provenance would carry over, even though it's been pretty much erased from record history. We're starting to see that transition now, but relating to cultural significance. And what I mean by that is Doodles 2 is moving to Flow. And even right before that, we saw Frank from DGods mention that they are migrating from Sol. DGods are moving to ETH, and then Utes are moving to Polygon. And we haven't really seen this happen in real time, where there's an astronomical amount of value that exists between these collections. Utes and DGods are number 1 and 2 on Sol. Doodles is one of the top PFP collections that I think has an 80th floor times 10,000 assets. So you're saying like 80,000 ETH market cap. Will the value transition with the assets as they move cross chain? And let me note by saying this is not a bridge that's happening, because Sol to ETH bridge does not exist because it's not EVM compatible. And same with Flow, because it's a centralized chain. It seems that there's been pushback from the community, from both groups migrating to different chains, at least from Utes moving to Polygon, and then from Flow, or from Doodles moving to Flow. And it's been received pretty well of DGods moving to Ethereum. Do we think that these could be significant moments in time that maybe could become a historical collection, because they would be the first to successfully transition a culture and migrate it across chain, and have a flawless or like a pretty solid execution? Open for anyone to take that question.
Yeah, this is a really interesting question, Jake. It's one thing I've been thinking about a lot, actually. Writing an essay at the moment on blockchains as brands. And I think ultimately the pushback, particularly with Doodle, has been, you've got these people who view Ethereum as the home for premium NFTs, and moving to Flow, which is credit to the Doodle team. They're looking to, more mass market appeal, being on Flow, and they're actually targeting potentially a different customer than what they have on ETH. So it's going to be really challenging for them to actually transition from ETH to Flow and keep that culture alive. My guess is that it will manifest a little bit differently. There will be a handful of ETH Doodle holders who will go over to Flow, but DC Investor, for example, who's in ETH Maxi, I just seeing him discussing with one of the guys on the Doodles team, and he's like, no one who's really serious into crypto is going to be interested in Flow, because closed source, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So fundamentally different customers that they're looking to appeal with Flow, but ultimately it's this brand idea. People at the moment, I see a lot of people saying no one's really going to care what chain an NFT is on. I would argue they are going to care, and we actually see it already. People do really care what chain it's on. Sol culture is very different to Ethereum culture, and I think it's only going to become more important. But this question of if they are able to transition that culture, I do think that would be a really historically significant event for sure.
Yeah, it just Dogfather, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe just to add that, I mean, we see that in other industries, right? So I was working a lot in banking. So when one bank was failing, then typically the neighboring bank was taking it over, with small banks. I think that same thing we see here on different chains. So when Sol was suffering, then, all the other chains were kind of seeing the opportunity to grab the best projects, right? So Polygon Foundation, or whoever is holding the funds there, was paying a quite decent 7-digit amount, to bring this project over. And I think we will see that more in the future when, some chains are falling down, the top rankings, then, the best projects, we just go to the more successful chain, and those more successful chains, they will cherry pick the best projects. And whether that is then something historical we will see in 10 years, but I think that's something we will see in the long run. I mean, we won't have 100 successful chains, right, doing basically the same thing. So we have a network effect where liquidity is pooling. So the best projects will want to go to the best chains, right?
Leonidas, you got any thoughts on this? I know you've you have a pretty fundamental understanding of cultures on different blockchains.
Yeah, it's interesting. So this would be a very different conversation if like Larva Labs is moving CryptoPunks or something. Yeah, so
I like using that example because it's like that really granularly hits you in the face, like what's actually happening here, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't want to imagine what that would be like. But yeah, so basically with Doodles 2, you're not betting on the historical provenance of like these tokens at all. Like, to be honest, like if Doodles, the company, went bankrupt tomorrow, the community would probably mostly fall apart. You're making a bet on a startup, a VC-backed startup. And as long as you understand that's what you're doing, you know, I don't think the provenance of the tokens matters all that much because people aren't holding the tokens for the collectability of holding Doodles 2. They're holding them because they want all of the utility associated with these tokens, right? I think that is basically what they're doing. They're betting on this startup. So to me, the startup can move to its own blockchain. It can move wherever. As long as you're making a bet on them, the provenance of that token doesn't matter a whole lot personally to me. I don't think there's any real historical value in the token or collectible value in the token right now. You know, maybe a very small percentage of the value. So to me, I think it's kind of a bit of a nothing burger, honestly. Like maybe that's me being contrarian. I don't know. But yeah, I think it probably makes a lot of sense if they want to try to reach people outside of this space. You know, there's like you can count on one hand how many people have successfully done that, right? And it wasn't on Ethereum layer 1. So I commend them for, you know, going for it personally.
The only thing that I could think of that was any similar, which actually had got some recent traction and some capital, was Age of Rust, where there was 1,000, I think it was 1,000 supply of each of these 10 assets, and about 980 on average of each of them were burnt, which left about 20 of each of these left. And in the Roaring Auctions auction last week, there was about 14,000 in sales between 10 assets. So you're saying about an ETH a piece for these, where the game hasn't even been released yet, although it is planned to be released this year. So maybe if the game is successful, then those early collectibles become even more valuable because it also it migrated from Counterparty to Engine and now from Engine to Polygon, where it seems to have to be held home. So maybe Adam, what's your thought on if there are some DGOD holders who hold back from the migration, if it is an option, and maybe you have 10 or 20 DGODs or 100 that exist on Sol, and then DGODs ends up being successful on Ethereum, do those Sol DGODs end up becoming something of historical because there is a successful cultural transition?
You know, I don't know. Who knows, man? At the core, I just say, you know, I'm viewing it more from the historical NFT lens, and I think it's a bad idea to use bridges and you lock up one on one chain and mint a new one on another. I just think it's creates this really crappy provenance of products or projects. I mean, I understand first use cases and trying to do stuff like you mentioned Bitcoin. She was like, well, what do I do? There are like no options here. What do I do to kind of go where people are? And, but in today's market to do that, you know, with Doodles, are they just trying to reach new collectors? Like Leo says, well, it's a VC backed company and they're just trying to go where the money may be. You know, I try it. Who knows? Maybe, you know, I look at it as who cares really. And in that way, yeah, it probably is a nothing burger. We'll see. We'll see how these things go and how they play out. And maybe, you know, at the core, collectors might be, it doesn't really matter. We like them on all these different chains, and bridges are the way of the future. It's possible. My gut says no, but you know, we're still early enough in this where people can try and projects can try, and you know the way it works. If one really works, people are going to copy it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I want to pull up here and show you on the Pudgy Penguin website. they actually noted the reason why they were using Zero Labs to go cross chain is that they wanted to keep the provenance intact. It was somewhere here in one of the first two paragraphs. I can't remember where exactly it was, but I do remember them noting it somewhere within this, that the reason they wanted to do this is so that the original token does not get burnt, and that they wanted to keep the provenance. So it was
just
something
gets
that
locked in a bridge waiting for a hack. It's like, can you imagine, right? A bunch of people migrate their penguins to whatever, I don't know where they're going, Sol or wherever they're going, you know? And so now you have 4,500 over there on Sol. They're locked in the, you know, the ETH bridge. And then that gets hacked, and then those get sold. And now you've got mimicking, you've got the same NFTs on multiple chains. You know, it just, I don't know. I have enough crypto knowledge to know that these typically don't end well, but we'll see.
Yeah, a funny story actually, because Emblem Vault is cross-chain. Shannon actually had to close the bridge down last year between Polygon because of all the hacks that were happening, and had to find a way around it. RCube posted, so Doodles 2 as a name is so flat, should have been Doodles Do, D-E-U-S, or something better. Solid transition. So then, as we are running out of time, kind of running into about an hour and a half, I wanted to close it here on where is it? I might have lost some of these.
While you're looking for that, Jake, I wanted to give, we had talked just briefly about, you know, collectors and seeing who owned stuff before you. One of the, you guys can, or people listening can research, there's one called The Worm, which I was a part of, which was basically an NFT that you would give to somebody else. And it was kind of this chain of who owned it. And every time when it left your wallet, you got basically a soul-bound NFT saying that, like, I got mine, I'm number 34 on the chain of the worm. And I'm not saying that that's the way forward, but it does create this like something that's an interesting, if somebody's listening to this and it's like, well, wait, what's one way I could exploit or do something along this line of creating this like interesting way of viewing previous owners of something? An artist or a project may do something similar to what the worm did, which was pretty cool, I think.
That is pretty cool. I remember that was going around NFT NYC.
That's right. The guy always shows up with this giant worm there to take a picture with this like stuffed animal worm. Yeah, that's the dude. It's a cool project.
Yeah, I wanted to end here on a write-up that I put probably way too much time into. Or write-up was this like history of NFT marketplaces. Leo talked about this kind of recently, that our memes in the historical space are timelines and thought pieces and write-ups. And I wanted to create something a little bit different from just, you know, talking about the tokenized, or the history of tokenization of these different things. And from putting this together, I probably put about 20 or 30 hours into this. I had to do two different versions. I've come to learn that if you're ever going to create a timeline for historical NFTs, you need to be prepared to do like 4 versions because there's always new information that's presented. Somebody's going to get upset or something like that. After the first version, there was a lot of people upset. I had
Welcome to the club, Jake.
Yeah.
Always somebody who's going to be upset. I had to first add the protocol section to it. There was a lot of things that were brought to my attention, which I'm probably gonna have to do V3 now. In 2014, everyone was kind of coalescing around this idea of authenticating NFTs or authenticating artwork. And so you had a handful of different projects attempt it in various ways, between Counterparty, One Name with the profiles, Monograph with monetized graphics, Doge Party later, and Ascribe. Ascribe's actually like quite historical. It actually, I'm trying to learn more. I might actually get Trent on the podcast soon. The first NFT marketplace is actually contemporary, at least from my understanding. There's actually a video I put here in the graphics of this transaction happening. And when I found it, it was, it was quite profound. I was like, I can't believe that this was actually on video here. I'm going to see if I can find it. But there's so much history going going through here that you realize the protocols were the first thing of trying to authenticate. And then the next phase is on Ethereum and mostly Bitcoin, and then a little bit of Namecoin, where Kevin McCoy created a marketplace where he built off of Monograph, which he did with Anil Dash, but he took this endeavor on himself. Didn't turn out too well from what I did research. Coin Temporary, all of these first two ones, or three with Left Gallery, were all using Ascribe's technology. And then Ether ID was like, had their own built-in native marketplace. And then you kind of see then from here that all these collections then build their own marketplace. And then OpenSea kind of was the first to really realize like, hey, I can basically create a Walmart. And then you see this proliferation in 2018 of art, which was kind of the early days. Maybe they were inspired by Repepes or something like that. And then you start seeing the financialization of NFTs with Rarible with their own token. You saw NFTX with their kind of like index liquidity pools. And then this explosion, you start seeing all the plethora of projects and kind of the mixing and matching to it. I was just curious what you guys thought on it, of this type of write-up, just at reading it and seeing that's just something that's not just about tokens themselves.
I mean, you did an incredible job. I know this takes, you said 15, 20, 30 hours.
I can't believe it only took 20 hours, man, because it's like, that would have taken me triple that, man. That's what it would have taken me. It's amazing.
Dude, it was fun. And then you start putting these documents together. And I think everyone here, for the most part, has put out some sort of thread or document or something like that. You start researching and you're like, man, dude, there is way more here than I expected. But once you start going, you're like, I have to put this out because I'm just going to get crucified if there's any wrong piece of information. But now I've just come to the terms that you're going to get crucified no matter what it is. So you might as well just kind of accept it with open arms.
Absolutely. I think, it's interesting, having talked with people about like the birth of OpenSea and how that kind of went down, and, to speak with enough people who were doing projects back then, and you had to make your own marketplace for all these NFT projects back then, right? Everybody had their own built-in marketplace, right? And it's just incredible. And how, guys, I can't remember who I talked with, where they met the OpenSea guys at a show, at a conference, right? And the OpenSea guys were like, please come on our marketplace, right? It's just, it's all this rich history of how it was kind of layer upon layer built, to get to today what we have, which is a bunch of competing marketplaces. It's incredible, man. What's that the video of? Oh, that's This
is the first transaction, March 31st, 2015, of Coin Temporary. And it's funny, if you watch this, you could find it. There is so much manual labor that goes into this transaction. It's like a 10-step process to get this one transaction done through this marketplace for this one NFT that exists. And I just could not believe that this found it. But the thing that they actually note during this demonstration is that they say, for the first time ever in blockchain history, you can buy a digital asset with a digital currency. So they were actually just like very aware of what was happening at the time, which is pretty cool, because it's tough to diagnose when you're building something if this is all just a sham and a fraud and you're getting imposter syndrome, or you're like, dude, you're doubling down and this is something of historical value here.
I mean, I think we're still early, man. When I saw Kevin Rose push out today, like, oh, wow, I should have used this and I wouldn't have gotten, $2 million stolen from me. And it's like, literally, it's like a Chrome extension that pops up and says, warning, this could be, a scam link, or warning, you probably shouldn't authorize all of your NFTs to be taken by this contract. I think we're still freaking so early. Like, this stuff is going to require decades to build. This Web3 future we're all envisioning, like it's years, if not decades. So just strap in. We're at the early stages. There's a lot to build. This layering of technology. We see it here. Your graphic really just lays out like the early starts and stops of the modern NFT, and the modern NFT is still clunky, hard to use. It just is. It's clunky. We're still in the clunky stages of Web3.
Yeah, Jake, it's amazing, man, the work you put into that. And to your point, Adam, these marketplaces, we've had so many, and yet people still complain about OpenSea and how bad OpenSea is. And even now, right, looks rare, blur, etc. Like we have no good, just there's no good customer experience right now. And for somebody in the space, I think we take for granted how many hoops we all jump on a day-to-day basis to even to even do the most basic things, right? Transferring or listing.
Dude, even eThord, like I was on my phone, I couldn't make it happen. That's it, dude. That's the problem,
crazy.
Right?
It's crazy. So when these things are sorted out, I mean, yeah, it's gonna be phenomenal. Which is why I'm so bullish. We talk about historicals and the fact that how hard it is right now to even buy historicals, right? Namecoin. You think about going any other chain, even ETH, like historicals. It's very. There's a lot of things you need to understand. Mooncats. Oh, they were wrapped here, and you have to go to this collection. There's a lot of things to think about, but these things they're solvable issues, which I'm comforted by.
Once that's more simplified and the UI UX is improved, then the arbitrage opportunity is gone. Then when markets become more efficient, the value tends to collapse between the early movers and those who are getting in. So you have to learn to appreciate where you are in time. Of course, it's easy to be impatient and just want number to go up, or want the Emblem curated collections to be launched now, or whatever it is. You just gotta learn and try to find ways to buy time. But whenever the infrastructure for the community is set and it's easy for people to onboard, then we're going to be the ones that everyone's going to come look to. They'll probably be even watching this interview right now, 3-4 years from now, trying to understand what were the early conversations and kind of the issues, just like we did in that video I was showing from 2015.
Totally. Wait a minute, you guys had to put it in a special vault to buy it off the counterparty? What are you, retarded? Just buy it on your phone, dude. Just push buy, dude. What are you talking about, right? I mean, yeah, that's where we are, man. That's literally where we are. I mean, it's hard to see because we're living in the time, right? It's really hard to see. But if you look back, and that's the beauty that we have, is we've looked back and seen all these little steps along the way, and you recognize, oh, we're actually still in just another step right now. And that's you got to feel fortunate, right? Because you can recognize that, oh, it's hard to buy through Counterparty. Maybe I should buy some stuff off Counterparty. Like that's actually probably a good idea.
In 10 years, when we are standing in front of some Punicode or ETHID, ASCII art, wherever in some museum, and telling them how you were digging them out of the ground, they will not believe that. That's the fun part, right? And you walk around the Louvre or wherever, MoMA in New York City, and you see these things at the wall, then you know where they are coming from. And that's priceless. So much fun.
Yeah, I tend to have fun even though I don't dig it. Actually, speaking to what Adam was saying about if there's like a hurdle to overcome, you should probably just follow it and see what happens. One of the big NFT influencers, Moon Overlord, has been tweeting pretty recently over the last few days that the biggest value unlock right now is literally just bridging to layer 2, which literally takes four clicks to move over to it. And he said there's so many people making money over there right now, but because of the hurdle or mental strain for some people to just do some mental gymnastics to move to layer 2, is cutting their bags in half, because that's where a lot of value is existing right now. And literally all you have to do is click a few buttons. It's a little bit different going to Namecoin and trying to download Namecoin Core or whatever, right? Or Adam's has been trying to deal with the ordinals thing and trying.
Oh my God! Don't even get me started, bro. Don't even get me started, man.
It reminds me of the early DeFi farming too, right? Having to bridge to all these other chains, but it's all about getting in early and farming and dumping the tokens and then moving to the next one. There's a lot of people that made a lot of money that way, but yeah, it's work.
Yeah, I'll never forget those yams days. That was quite a wild game of hot potato. There it is. But yeah, I appreciate you guys for doing this and working through some technical difficulties. I'm gonna have to get back under the hood again to try to figure out what the deal is. I don't know. Maybe we go
Third time's the charm, man. Third time's the charm, brother.
Third time's the freaking charm. I hope so.
Hey guys, before we leave, I have a question for Adam. Is your pet pig around where we could see them?
The pig's upstairs in the.
Upstairs. Okay, another time.
You've probably seen the dogs walking back and forth.
Yeah, I did.
We got the pigs on the top level. She's in the back 40 today. So maybe next week's show I'll have her down here with me so everybody can get some live piggage.
All right. Well, we're counting on it.
Yeah, I forgot you had a pig. Wow.
Oh, little sweetie's up there taking a nap. I put her down right before the show, so yeah, it's all good.
And we need a bird again. You know, the bird was also cool last time.
Oh my God, birds! It's why it's Costa Rica. It's wild jungle down here, man.
Adam is truly living the Costa Rican life. Gotta love it. At least your internet was held through today.
Living the dream.
Living the dream. Eth Horde, Leonidas, Dogfather, Mafiko, Adam. Absolute fun conversation. I think this is going to be a fun time moving forward, especially once we can move this towards multiple times per week, because there's still probably 5 or 6 topics that I had listed that we didn't even get to cover.
Yeah. Trust me, we got lists of stuff that it did not happen. So yeah, you can see how this can fill out a daily show for sure.
Quite quick. All right. Well, for those who hung in, thank you guys for watching. We will eventually figure out the technical difficulties, but until then, we'll see you next week.